Women advocates against gender-based violence have called for the immediate resignation of Peter Mayen Majongdit from the position of the National Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. They accuse Mayen of committing violent crimes against his wife Aluel Garang, popularly known as Aluel Messi. The activists presented a petition to the cabinet and the parliament. They accuse Mayen of domestic violence, gross misconduct, violent assault, torture and abuse of Aluel Messi rights. Over the last week, Peter Mayen has been trending in the media after he was accused of battering his wife and shooting her in the leg. During the weekend, Mayen is said to have traveled to Kwajok, Warrap State, where he again allegedly beat up the wife, forcing her to escape from their home. Women activists and sympathizers organized a small procession. They presented their petition to the Deputy Speaker of the National Parliament and the National Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare. The advocates demanded the dismissal of Mayen from his position and the immediate institution of legal charges against him. Jacqueline Asiwa is the Executive Director of the Center for Inclusive Governance, Peace and Justice. She read out the petition.
Peter Mayen must go.
Justice for Aluel Messi.
Thank you very much. And this petition is addressed to different members of the Artigonu, including the executive. South Sudanese Organizations Against Gender-Based Violence. Open Communique, Juba, South Sudan, August 9, 2021. His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, President of the Republic of South Sudan. Her Excellency Rebecca Nyandeng Dimabio, Vice President and Chair of Gender and Youth Cluster. Right Honorable Gemma Nunukumba, Speaker of the reconstituted National Legislative Assembly. Honorable Aya Benjamin Warile, Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare. Brief. Call for dismissal of Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Republic of South Sudan. Having gathered here today, August 9, 2021 in Juba, South Sudan, the South Sudanese women rights organizations, women organization pool, activists, women intellectuals, civil society, and human rights defenders gathered today and issued this open communique condemning the acts that involve beating, stabbing, wounding, torture, inhuman and degrading treatment by Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit against his wife, Aluel Garang, also known as Aluel Messi, and call for his immediate dismissal as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. Proud that Mrs. Aluel Messi, the South Sudanese women leaders, is one of the few footballers who is an icon and inspiration to many young women with talents in sports and leadership. In solidarity with Aluel Messi, the South Sudanese women organizations, women leaders, women rights organizations, and civil society activists call for the dismissal of Peter Mayen Majongdit. Condemn in the strongest term possible the barbaric, brutal action of Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit, who forcefully demanded the removal of Ms. Aluel from an ongoing football match of the South Sudanese Women League in Awil, violently disrupting the match and denying her the opportunity to pursue her career in sports and work. Aware that the Article 2.1.10.2 of the R-Axis requires the parties for the agreement to refrain from acts and forms of sexual violence, gender-based sexual harassment and exploitation and abuse, which are also prohibited actions of the agreement on the cessation of hostility, protection of civilians and humanitarian access. Cognizant that the Bill of Rights under the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan 2011, as amended, the Penal Code 2008, ratification of the international legal instruments as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the Goma Declaration on eradicating sexual violence and ending impunity in the Great Lakes region, the Kampala Declaration on sexual and gender-based violence, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, and the National Action Plan. Drawing from the Bill of Rights under the Transitional Constitution, the Penal Code, ratification of international instruments such as the African Charter, Universal Declaration on Human and People's Rights. Condemn these acts, acknowledging that Article 2 of the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan as amended, that gives every person the right to liberty and security of person without restriction, prohibits torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, guarantees women's participation to equally participate in public life with men. Conscious of Article 39 of the Constitution as amended, defining a family as a natural, fundamental unit of society that needs to be promoted and protected at all levels of government. Regret that Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit, a signatory of the R-Axis, a senior government official and Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, violated the rights of his wife, and by extension, normalizing domestic violence, sexual violence against women and girls in South Sudan. Regretting the inaction of the Article in ending impunity and holding perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence against vulnerable women, girls, and boys, including Mrs. Aluel Messi. Surprised by the total silence and lack of accountability by the Article leadership towards Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit only puts more women, girls, and boys at risk of sexual and gender-based violence. We therefore call upon His Excellency the President of the Republic of South Sudan, Peter Mayen, to dismiss Peter Mayen Majongdit from serving as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management for his gross misconduct as a public official, violent assault, torture, and abuse of rights of his wife, Aluel Messi. The Honorable Vice President, Rebecca Nyandeng Dimabio, who is also the chair of Gender and Youth Cluster, to establish an independent committee to investigate the alleged actions of the minister for possible trial before a competent court of law. Ensure the safety and protection of Aluel Messi from further violence by Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit. The Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, and the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs to immediately table the anti-gender-based violence bill before the reconstituted, revitalized Transitional National Legislature for adoption. The government to ratify the Maputo Protocols, enact family laws, ethics and integrity law that sets high moral standards for public officials, and scrutinize their moral obligations towards protection of all citizens, women, girls, and boys. The Article to strengthen the justice and rule of law institutions and expand the gender-based violence and juvenile courts to the grassroots to address cases of sexual and gender-based violence. Strongly recommend the Ministry of Gender and Social Welfare to embark on a nationwide campaign against sexual and gender-based violence, women's rights promotion throughout the states of South Sudan. We have said, justice is peace. Say no to violence against women. Peter Mayen. Dismiss Peter Mayen.
Justice for Aluel Messi.
Dismiss Peter Mayen.
Justice for Aluel Messi.
السلام عليكم. احنا جينا هنا الليله في وزاره الجندا عشان نجي نسلم البتيشن حقتنا كنساء حق جنوب السودان، وبرضه ينضموا لنا رجال برضه من جنوب السودان. فالكلام اللي جينا نوصله هنا الليله ده ما صوت حق النساء براهم. فاحنا جينا في الوزاره هنا عشان نجي ندين العمل السيء من قبل وزير الشؤون الإنسانية هونوربل بيتر ميان ماجونغديت، فالعمليات حق العنف المستمرة منه في اتجاه زوجته، لأنه ده ما أول مرة، والناس المتابعين الأخبار كلهم أكيد عارفين الحاصل شنو. فإحنا جينا هنا لأنه بيتر ميان هو إنسان غائد، وزول يكون في منصب زي ده وهو وزير بتاع شؤون إنسانية، المفروض تصرفه يكون تصرف إنساني، ومفروض أصلا ما يتعامل بالعنف خالص. فأنت لما تكون في مكان زي دي لازم تكون مثال للناس التانيين، فده السبب اللي خلانا نجي هنا للحكومة الليلة نوصل صوتنا، عشان عايزين لازم يكون شنو في قرار واضح تجاه الوزير، ولازم يحاسبوه، لأنه ما في زول فوق القانون يا جماعة، ما في زول فوق القانون، مهما كان منصبك انت منو لازم تتحاسب لما تعمل حاجة خطأ. فده السبب اللي خلانا نجي هنا، عشان بيتر ميان لازم يتحاسب. وتاني حاجة احنا بنطلب ذاته انه يتم اقالته، والشيء الثالث احنا طالبينه انه هو بيتر ميان ما يكون في منصبه. رئيس الجمهورية لازم ينزل بيتر ميان من منصبه كوزير حق الشؤون الإنسانية طالما هو قاعد يستخدم سلطته بطريقة سيئة. وبنطلب برضو انه الحكومة يجيب مع ألويل ميسي، لأنها الآن هي محبوسة في بيت بيتر ميان في كواجوك. من ما الحادثة حصلت لها ليوم الليلة ألويل ما قدرت تلقى العلاج، ألويل محبوسة في البيت، ما ودوها المستشفى، وهي ما قادرة تقابل أسرتها. فبنتمنى إنه الحكومة يجيب في الحتة دي عشان ألويل يقدروا يطلعوها وهي تبدأ علاجاتها. وبنطلب برضو إنه الحكومة يجيب مع أسرة ألويل ميسي لما هم يبدوا إجراءاتهم القانونية، والقانون ما يتحايز، لأنه إذا فعلا بنؤمن إنه ما في زول فوق القانون لازم فعلا العدل يتم في مكانه، لأنه ده عنف، وإحنا بننبس حاجات زي دي. وإحنا الليلة ما هنا عشان ألويل براء يا جماعة، في نسوان كتار من جنوب السودان قاعدين يعانوا من حاجات زي دي، وفي ناس حتى فقدوا أرواحهم بحاجات زي ده. فده شيء ما بخلينا نسكت لحد شنو نقعد نفقد أرواح زيادة. فإحنا جينا هنا عشان نحاول نقف مع بعض، والحكومة ذاتها تقف معانا، عشان حوادث زي دي ضد يعني العنف ضد النسوان يا جماعة يقف وما يستمر. ومن هنا بنناشد أي مرة هي قاعد يعني تتعذب في بيتها، قاعد بتواجه حاجات، هي لازم تتكلم، ما تخاف، لأنه هنا في عاداتنا وتقاليدنا بنخاف على السمعة بتاع الأسرة ونقول خلاص الوحدة تقعد تتحمل. فده من الأسباب احنا جينا هنا، ونتمنى إنه الحكومة يستمع لنا، وبننتظر الرد برضو من الوزيرة حقت الجندة هونوربل آية. فده الصوت حقنا وده الأسباب اللي احنا فيه. وهنا اجتمعنا الليلة نسوان من مجتمعات مختلفة ومن منظمات مختلفة ومن هيئات مختلفة. ده السبب جينا هنا اجتمعنا سوا كنساء حق جنوب السودان، وبرضه في جزء من الرجال برضه واقفين معانا. فشكرا.
The petitioners demanded the urgent establishment of an independent committee to investigate the alleged actions of Peter Mayen. They also asked the government to guarantee the protection of Aluel Messi from further violence by Peter Mayen. Speaking after receiving the petition, the Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Honorable Aya Benjamin Warile, joins the women voices and commends the women on taking the step to fight for their rights. She condemns all forms of violence against women and promises to investigate into the story with the respective organs involved.
Women, good morning.
Good morning.
We are very, very happy to receive you here this morning with this petition. This really shows we are aware of our rights as women and as human beings, because our rights as women is human rights. We've had, me and the Undersecretary, plus other staff from the ministry, we've had your petition. The Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare condemns all forms of violence against any human being. Yes. And we are very particular about violence against women. This case has been on the social media. We didn't receive any official letter or information, but immediately we got it on social media. We assigned 2 of our staff to investigate. And after we are privileged as a ministry to receive the father of our daughter and sister, Aluel. He came to the office and we heard his side of the story. So we are working on this, and then we will present it to our the Vice President, Madam Rebecca Nyande. We've had example of this GBV bill. We've already worked on it on our part. We're just waiting for now to be taken and tabled at the highest level. So I want to assure you, South Sudanese, that as a ministry, we are doing our part to make sure that all that we are supposed to table or all that we are supposed to lead, we are doing our best to make sure that it is done. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I will take it up from here. I will deliver my message.
For his part, the first Deputy Speaker of the Transitional National Legislative Assembly, Nathaniel Oyet, applauds the women for not taking the law into their hands, but rather brought the petition to the parliament. He advised activists or anyone aggrieved by actions of government officials to also seek legal redress. According to Nathaniel Oyet, issues regarding gender-based violence should not be treated lightly.
You are all welcome to the Transitional National Legislative Assembly. This is an assembly that represents your voice, that represents the citizens of this country in all their diversity. We as a parliament, and especially the leadership, are grateful to receive your petition. We are grateful that you did not choose to take law to your hands, but you brought your petition so that this institution, the Parliament of the Republic of South Sudan, would look into your case. We as a parliament, and especially the leadership, are not privy to what took place as is stipulated in your petition. We know we have organs of government. We have the police department. We have the CID department, whose work is to detect crimes. I know from what I heard from your petition, there is a criminal dimension associated with the assault, torture, violations to our Bill of Rights, and particularly regarding the rights of women and children. We are aware of this very much. We regret as a parliament that if the rights of the case Aluel Messi is being violated, we very much regret this as a parliament. We have our constitution, we have our penal code that enshrine prohibitions to violations of human rights and violation to rights of women and children. This, we know it very well. Of course, we have received your petition. I will take it to the Speaker, Right Honorable Yamanulu Kumba, will sit as the leadership of the Assembly and consider this petition. And I will consult with the other relevant authorities and seek the necessary course of action. I would like to advise you that based on what I heard, from the petition, in case, as it has appeared, there is criminal dimension, you're already calling for removal of the minister involved. You also drop a copy to the Ministry of Gender and Cabinet Affairs, because he's a member of the Council of Ministers. So you drop, address it to the head of state, to the president, who is the chairman of the Cabinet, Council of Ministers. So you drop it there. We also have gender court. One time I saw it somewhere in Juba. You also need to be advised that you consider taking appropriate legal action leading towards litigation. For us on our part, as Parliament, we shall do what we can under our competence. But also we expect other organs of government to do their part likewise. I once more welcome you to the Parliament, and I thank you very much for delivering this petition. Thank you very much.
The procession under the slogan "Peter Mayen must go, Justice for Aluel Messi" aims at voicing women's concern on issues of gender-based violence and trying to hold the gender-based violence perpetrators accountable for their actions.
Dismiss Peter Mayen.
Justice for Aluel Messi.
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 Reporting for iRadio, I'm Yar Ajak.